Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Grandmaster Knockout. In the left corner, the one, the only, Carlsen. And his opponent, ladies and gentlemen, Erigaisi. Tonight, one board, 64 squares, playing white. Carlsen playing black. Erigaisi. Gentlemen, let the battle begin. Carlsen, pawn to e4. Erigaisi, pawn to e5. Carlsen, knight to f3. Erigaisi, knight to c6. Carlsen, bishop to c4. Erigaisi, bishop to c5. Carlsen, castles kingside. Erigaisi, knight to f6. Carlsen, pawn to d3. Erigaisi, pawn to d6. Carlsen, pawn to c3. Erigaisi, castles kingside. Carlsen, pawn to h3. Erigaisi, bishop to b6. Carlsen, pawn to a4. Erigaisi, pawn to a5. Carlsen, bishop to e3. Erigaisi, bishop takes a 3. Carlsen, pawn takes a 3. Erigaisi, rook to e8. Carlsen, knight to bd2. Erigaisi, bishop to e6. Carlsen, pawn to b3. Erigaisi, pawn to h6. Carlsen, queen to e1. Erigaisi, bishop takes c4. Carlsen, pawn takes c4. Erigaisi, knight to d7. Carlsen, queen to g3. Erigaisi, knight to c5. Carlsen, knight to e1. Erigaisi, queen to g5. Carlsen, queen to f2. Erigaisi, queen to g6. Carlsen, queen to e2. Erigaisi, rook to a6. Carlsen, knight to df3. Erigaisi, queen to h5. Carlsen, king to h2. Erigaisi, rook to b6. Carlsen, pawn to g4. Erigaisi, queen to g6. Carlsen, knight to g2. Erigaisi, queen to e6. Carlsen, pawn to g5. Erigaisi, knight to e7. Carlsen, knight to gh4. Erigaisi, rook to b3. Carlsen, queen to c2. Erigaisi, pawn takes g5. Carlsen, knight takes g5. Erigaisi, queen to h6. Carlsen, knight to hf3. Erigaisi, pawn to f6. Carlsen, knight to e6. Erigaisi, knight takes a 6. Carlsen, queen takes b3. Erigaisi, queen takes a 3. Carlsen, pawn to c5. Erigaisi, pawn to d5. Carlsen, pawn takes d5. Erigaisi, queen to e2, check. Carlsen, king to h1. Erigaisi, knight to f4. Carlsen, pawn to d6, check. Erigaisi, knight to ed5. Carlsen, queen to a2. Erigaisi, queen takes d3. Carlsen, rook to ad1. Erigaisi, queen to e4. Carlsen, rook to d1. Erigaisi, queen to f5. Carlsen, knight to g1. Erigaisi, queen to e6. Carlsen, queen to d2. Erigaisi, pawn takes d6. Carlsen, pawn to c4. Erigaisi, pawn takes c5. Carlsen, pawn takes d5. Erigaisi, knight takes d5. Carlsen, queen to a2. Erigaisi, rook to c8. Carlsen, rook to c1. Erigaisi, king to h7. Carlsen, rook to fd1. Erigaisi, pawn to c4. Carlsen, rook takes c4. Erigaisi, knight to e3. Carlsen, queen to b1, check. Erigaisi, pawn to f5. Carlsen, rook takes c8. Erigaisi, queen takes c8. Carlsen, rook to c1. Erigaisi, queen to e6. Carlsen, queen to d3. Erigaisi, knight to d5. Carlsen, rook to f1. Erigaisi, knight to f4. Carlsen, queen to f3. Erigaisi, pawn to b6. Carlsen, knight to e2. Erigaisi, knight takes a 2. Carlsen, queen takes a 2. Erigaisi, pawn to e4. Carlsen, queen to h5, check. Carlsen lands the knockout. Erigaisi has no answer. If you loved this fight, smash that like button and subscribe. More legendary battles are coming your way. See you in the next one.